On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, is this Thunder rookie class ready to make an impact right away? And what should the Thunder do with the 2026 NBA draft?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. On today's Locked On Thunder, we're joined by Tyler Metcalf at TMetcalf11 on Twitter and the host of the No Ceilings crew, along with Locked On. Locked On and No Ceilings have partnered up to bring you draft coverage this entire season and beyond. So, Tyler, welcome to the family of Locked On Podcasting Network. But now we get to buckle down and talk about this Oklahoma City Thunder rookie class, which does include Topic from the 2024 draft, as he had a redshirt season last year. But they've also selected Thomas Sorber and they've selected Brooks Barnheiser. When you look at this team being a 68-win team a year ago, just won a championship, now looking to defend their title, how interesting is it that they also have at least two really intriguing rookies?
Yeah, and they're in that fun spot where they have their core established. They obviously extended Chet and J-Dub this summer too, so they have their main three locked in for the long term, in their prime, or not even in their prime yet, which is the scary part, which gives them the affordability, especially when they have like high level role players like throughout the roster who are also locked down for the next couple of years too, that they can take some of these bigger swings on guys, that they can be a little more patient with guys like Nikola Topic, who obviously came into the draft with the knee injury, and I think that pushed him down a couple spots for teams. Then Thomas Sorber dealing with the injury as well during the second half of the season, wasn't healthy enough to play in summer league, probably dropped him a couple spots. Whereas if he was able to finish out that season and continue showcasing some of the defensive stuff that we saw from him and the offensive growth that we saw from him, wouldn't have shocked me if he went even earlier than he did. So they're in a really fun spot where they can be a little patient, slowly introduce these guys to the culture and continue to develop them in a really, really advantageous setting for young guys, not only around the main team, but we've also seen how effective they are at using the OKC blue to get guys up to speed, to get them accustomed with expectations and, from their teammates and coaching staff and front office and ownership. So from a top-down approach, it's just a really, really fun blend of leaning into your stars who are going into their primes while also taking these big swings on developmental guys who are probably hopefully going to be able to contribute earlier in their career than they may otherwise be able to in other situations.
So make sure you're checking out Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. And Tyler, let's start with Thomas Sorber. This is someone who I think is very interesting because while big men in general are a dime a dozen, big men that fit this Thunder system are not. Like with the responsibility that they have as a playmaker, with how involved they are offensively and defensively, with the Thunder liking to switch everything. What's just your overall first opinion on Thomas Sorber, who dealt with that foot injury at the end of the season, and we're going to get our first look at him as training camp opens up and as the preseason gets underway. But what were your overall thoughts of him as a prospect and also his upside as a player?
I loved him. He was I think he ended up as my number 2 center in this class and in that same tier as Kaman Malawach. So many of his numbers, and he really jumped onto the scene early in the season because his numbers, both raw and advanced numbers, were ridiculous. But it's also like, all right, well, they haven't really played anyone yet. So is he just feasting on bad competition? And he certainly was. But then once the competition got a little better, the numbers didn't really change all that much. And we saw the awesome rebounding numbers. We saw really effective and dynamic interior finishing stuff. We saw creative and intriguing passing upside with him out of the short roll, out of the post, some box and elbow stuff. He sees the floor well. I buy the shot long term. I think the mid-range stuff is a little more kind of day one ready. I think he's got really good touch. I would be surprised if he doesn't stretch it out to 3, at least in some respect, not prolific. He's not going to be Karl Anthony Towns, I don't think, but I think he's going to be able to, hit a trail three, pick and pop a couple times a game. But the real fascination that I had with him was as a rim protector, where I know opponents shot like 48% at the rim when he was on the court. When he was off the court, that jumped to like 62, 63%. So he was one of the best rim protectors in the league. Obviously, part of that is that when he was on defense, they just plopped him right under the rim and didn't ask him to defend in space a whole lot. Something to keep an eye on. But when we look at how the Thunder have implemented Chet and Jalen Williams and Isaiah Hartenstein, I think there are a lot of really advantageous contexts that he can fit into, especially given the perimeter defenders that also are on this Thunder team, where he can play a little more aggressive drop coverage, because those guys are so good at getting over screens and pre-switching and digging and recovering, that especially early in his career, while he's still figuring all that out and getting healthy, they're going to be able to simplify things for him on that end.
Yeah, I for sure expect them to be able to bend their defensive strategies around what Sorber's strengths are, which could just simply be, hey, you're so athletic and so elite at the rim. You're just always in drop coverage. We'll figure the rest out later on the perimeter, because they have such a bevy of guys who can fight over screens and who can take care of the outside way. And so you get an elite rim protector behind Chet Holmgren, who in his own right is an elite rim protector and one of the best in the NBA. When you're looking at Thomas Sorber, he's only 19 years old, though, and the ceiling is very high for him. And I, too, buy the shot, and I buy his ability to progress. But when you're looking at it from a standpoint of he got drafted by a title contender who expects to be a title contender for the rest of this decade, when would you expect Thomas Sorber to be ready to actually thrive in this rotation? Because you have a interesting decision to make this summer on Isaiah Hartenstein, and I think that some people have logically kind of put him as the fill-in for Hartenstein, but can he be ready in your estimation by the end of this season?
Probably not. I would still guess that he would need another year or so after that, until he's like really ready to roll and, potentially getting similar minutes to what Hartenstein is getting. Like you said, he's still super young. It's never great. You never love when big men have injuries this young. But by all accounts, medicals were a green light. So nothing really to worry about in the long term. It's just really hard. It's really hard to be that young, that productive, and that impactful towards winning with a team who has championship expectations. So my guess would be it'd probably take 2 to 3 years until he's like really ready to like play major minutes. But also in that time span, Chet's going to get better, and Jalen Williams is still on the team, and like they have other pieces. So I don't think, even though it'll probably be 3 years in my expectations until he really hits the ground running, I don't think it's really going to be that big of a deal, because if Hartenstein leaves, then, all right, he's going to be thrown into the fire a little bit more. But they continue to show that they're able to get so much more out of young players than basically any other team in the league. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, I think, to just watch him progress, because this is a 19-year-old who has immense upside. He's also only played like half a season of above high school level basketball to this point. And so watching him mature with this team, I mean, they have a world-class shooting coach in Chip England. They have the best defensive developmental staff in the league with the OKC G League staff, and including their Thunder staff as well. He's going to have such resources that I just look at a guy that's this talented and see the resources that he's going to get and refuse to believe that he's not going to become a really good player for this Oklahoma City Thunder team. And he might not even be the most interesting prospect that we're going to talk about today, because Nikola Topic is still existing and is still hanging around. We'll talk about him coming up and what to expect from him his rookie season, and how long will it take for him to be able to play the Thunder's style if he can never get there. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at Monarch Money, go check out Monarch Money today, because with Monarch Money, it is fantastic for you, the consumer. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks and properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together on one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch Money does the heavy lifting for you, linking all your accounts in minutes, and to see clear data visuals and get smart categorization of your spending. Finally, being able to feel like you're in control of your money is a big deal. without even touching a spreadsheet. I love the fact that visualization also tracks your spending when it comes to stuff like subscriptions. I mean, I have been there where I sign up for these subscriptions, sign up for the free trial, forget to cancel it, and all of a sudden I've been paying for a subscription for 3 years that I haven't used once, and I can go cancel it with Monarch Money. Go check out Monarch Money today by using code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com on your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Here talking with Tyler Metcalf at Team Metcalf11 on social media, the host of Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. Tyler, when you're looking at this Thunder group of prospects, Nikola Topic, of course, the biggest name. There's now been reports 2 straight years that he would have gone top 5 in the last 2 draft classes, and it's kind of spiraled on him a little bit with his expectations and his hype level. But stripping him away from the Thunder, well, let's just look at him as a prospect. Why do people so consistently say he would have gone top 5 without this knee injury? Like, what did he look like? What did he feel like as a prospect before you even got into the team fit?
Yeah, and top 5 is still a touch rich for me, but I it would have been earlier than where he went. But I there are also a lot of people who at that time were like, nah, I'd take him top 3. So you're not off, but personally, a little lower for me. He's just one of these potential basketball savants with the way he sees the floor, the way he creates for teammates, and he gets to the rim so effortlessly, and he's big. And he's like the measurements on him are step, getting downhill, getting to the rim, collapsing the defense with ease, and then creating so much stuff out of that. It's a little similar to like Isaiah Collier's ability to get downhill and then create and spray the ball out everywhere, but a little more disciplined with the decision making, and then obviously just a lot bigger as well. The big upside with him, the big fascination is what he can do as that on-ball creator with the ball in his hands and really manipulating defenses with the eye manipulation, the rim pressure, the paint touches, and the ability to single-handedly force those secondary rotations that then puts the defense in scramble mode. And being able to create those at will, it's really tough to do. But if he's able to carry that over like we saw before he got drafted, then we're talking about a guy who I'm not sure how long the Thunder could probably afford him.
When you're looking at him, ideally, like, obviously we're going to talk about his Thunder fit, but just if you were going to try to tailor a roster toward him, what would his role look like?
Pure point guard. I do, my biggest skepticisms with him come with the shot and what he does without the ball. He's still learning how to cut, how to move without the ball, how to be that complementary piece when he's not the de facto guy. Like when he was with Mega, everything ran through him. He always had the ball in his hands. So when he didn't, it was a lot of just standing still, standing off to the side, because 1, he didn't really know what to do, and 2, he's probably exhausted from having to create everything anyways. So I think at his peak, it's here's the ball, go initiate the offense, go create high quality looks for yourself, for teammates, and use that creativity to really put the defense on their heels. That's where I love him the most.
When you look at Topic now from the lens of the Thunder, I mean, they're going to have to ask him in certain lineups to play off the ball, to be someone who can be a play finisher of like cutting and shooting off the catch. And defensively, this whole thing is built on the Thunder's defense. And he showed at Summer League that he can be an instinctive defender. He can be someone who is able to play the passing lanes, but also someone who, if he gets called to the ball as a point of attack defender, you kind of are skeptical about and worry about. But when you're looking at those things being weaknesses for him, how far away do you think he is from being able to play those roles at a passable level to where he can stay on the floor defensively? He can stay on the floor for the minutes where you need him as an off-ball player, because whenever he does get to have his exact usage of being a pure point guard, it's so worth it.
Yeah, and defensively, he's probably a little closer to being insulated, especially given the tools and the pieces that the Thunder have. When you factor in his size, his ability to read and jump passing lanes, that those extra couple inches just make him all the more valuable, especially if he's acting as the low man and can tag and recover. Um, on ball, like his screen navigation, and obviously it's always tough because we haven't really seen him for a year ish now. We saw him at Summer League some, but it's always different. The screen navigation going back to Mega wasn't great. The on ball defense wasn't great. He gambled a lot. Some of his defensive playmaking numbers were really encouraging, but a lot of that was his willingness and eagerness to jump passing lanes. So there's a bit of, feast or famine with that kind of stuff. But even if operating like that, if he can just delay the offense for that extra 1 to 2 seconds, that split second, the rest of the Thunder players are so good at scrambling and closing down passing lanes and shooting lanes that it could be enough. Offensively, it's really tough to say because it's when we think about guys transitioning into a lesser role, it feels really easy to just be like, oh, we'll just shoot off the catch. That's not that hard. But when you're so used to dictating everything and always having the ball in your hands and being the primary decision maker, it's a big, big adjustment that a lot of guys really struggle with. So it's like, I kind of have to see it to believe it. And if anyone's going to get that out of him, it's probably going to be Mark Dagnall because he's gotten that out of everybody. But I think Topic is kind of a long ways away from that because it's second nature to him. It's not the primary instinct of, oh, the ball's going to go there, and now I'm going to cut, because he's used to thinking, all right, I'm going to go here, Euro step here, flip, kick it out here, and then it's going the other way. And he's just got to really shift his mindset and approach to that. And shooting off the catch, they have one of the best shooting coaches in the league, but he was in the 30th percentile shooting off the catch at Mega and shot just 29.4% shooting off the catch with Mega. So it's a big adjustment, it's small sample size, but I think it's one of those transitions that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, I think that this is a situation where it's a kind of catch-22 because these decisions come faster than we think. I mean, they just made the decision on the 22 draft class. They're going to have to make the decision about Cason Wallace's price tag at the end of this season. You're going to soon have to make a decision on Nikola Topic and what he is. So balancing the kind of weight of expectation that you put on Nikola Topic is, I think, one of the more fascinating things about this season of, do you take this season and look at it and just kind of view it as a baseline of just, okay, this is where he starts at. Let's see where he's at next season. When do you start putting expectations on Topic to really perform in terms of that decision date? Because you mentioned how he could be too expensive for OKC.
Yeah, I honestly, probably by the end of the year. I think he's going to have to start proving that he deserves minutes. He obviously has guys like SGA who he's not going to beat out. Yeah. But he's taken a load of the point guard minutes, and then Cason Wallace and AJ Mitchell. And Mark Dagnall clearly loves AJ Mitchell. He's playing in the finals, for God's sake, after missing a couple months of the regular season with injury. So it's a really steep uphill climb for Topic to overcome, because there are a lot of really talented guys in this rotation who have won the coach's favor, who have proven that they can play playoff minutes, who have proven that they can win a title with them, and Topic hasn't. So I think what's so much fun about this Thunder organization is that they're going to play everyone. If you're going to get a look, maybe not when you expect it, but he's going to get minutes this year. He's going to get an opportunity, and he's just going to have to capitalize on it, because if he doesn't, we've also seen that they are willing to move guys who may not fit into their plans necessarily.
Yeah, I'm very curious about Topic this season for a couple of different ways. First and foremost, the Thunder have what they've missed the most from the Josh Giddey experience was his amazing inbounding ability. I mean, his ability to just thread a needle and literally create buckets. You can go back and watch all of Giddey's inbounds, and little head nods will create this crease to get the Thunder 2 extra points. And whenever you're going to put guys on the floor who are all exceptional cutters, who all can shoot off the catch, like that inbounding aspect of their team left some points on the table last year. And if Topic can in any way duplicate that for a team that is willing to put point guards in that role. It'll be very interesting to see if he can pick that up as well. But that's such a niche and great skill that Giddey has. I know he'll always be compared to Giddey, but it feels like Giddey kind of has that one. I'm also curious about the advantageous passes, like the creativeness of his passes, because Topic walks into a team that has a lot of one read guys. Like they can make the next pass, they can make the right decision, but they can't go make the defense be in a bad spot. Isaiah Hartenstein can. Isaiah Hartenstein can kind of throw the ball 2 passes ahead, and now all of a sudden the defense is out of whack. Nobody else really can on this roster, and I think that Topic has that. I think that there's a pathway for Topic to be a more creative passer, especially off the ball, than Josh Giddey was, because the problem with the Josh Giddey fit was not just the 3-point shot. It was playing him off the ball completely neutered his playmaking ability, because once he became an off-ball passer, Tyler, it felt like he then turned into that one-read guy where he just wanted to make the right decision and move on with his life. It feels like Topic is a little bit more exploratory, even in that setting, that could really help make the fit look better, even though it's the same kind of archetype.
And that's where we get back to the importance of the shot and just having that. He doesn't have to be Steph Curry out there, but he has to be league average. He has to draw a long closeout or even make defenders think and hesitate about closing out long, because once he gets them in that situation, when the ball swings to him, now he's just in another situation where he can get a paint touch, and this time in an off-ball role where he's attacking closeouts, getting to the paint, and again manipulating those rotating defenses that he's so good at in an on-ball role. And I am a little more encouraged about the shot than I was with Giddey's. He's at this same stage. He's been a little more willing to let it fly out of various situations. And I think he'll put the work in. Not saying Giddey didn't, but I think the volume and this touch are just a little more encouraging at this point than it was with Giddey. And if Topic can just get to that league average on maybe slightly above average volume, shooting off the catch, that's going to draw those long closeouts. So when the ball does swing and those guys are just making that one read, now he's able to attack a rotating defense and, set guys up maybe 2 or 3 passes away from from when he received the ball.
Yeah, because if he can become a league average 3-point shooter, and now you're just putting around him guys who can shoot the basketball, but guys who are also excellent cutters. If you get a defense rotating and then they're playing in between, like say he's in the slot and you have Wiggins in the deep corner and a defender's playing in between those 2 guys, and now Wiggins is cut back door and then Topic throws it over to him, like it just opens up the offense so well, and he's able to capitalize on that with his creativity as a passer. That I do think that it is interesting to think about what he can be as soon as this year, while probably understanding that he won't be anywhere close to a finished product or anywhere close to where he ends up at the end of this season. Coming up, let's talk Brooks Barnheiser, but let's also talk the 2026 NBA draft. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Rylan Stiles. That's Tyler Metcalf from Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings. Make them your second listen because they already have a ton of great 2026 NBA Draft coverage, and the Thunder have plenty of picks in the 2026 NBA Draft. I mean, they have picks from every angle. They're going to end up with 3 picks minimum in this draft. Tyler, is this a draft in 2026 that's deep enough to warrant the Thunder holding on to 3 draft picks with this rotation? Or is it something where, yeah, there's a defined like top 10, and if you can consolidate and get into like the 12th or 11th range, then go ahead and do it? Like where does this draft class go right now in terms of depth?
Depth could get a little shaky. The top 3 are like potential all NBA guys, and AJ DeBonsa, Cam Boozer, and Darren Peterson. Like any order that you have those 3 guys in, I can understand it, and they're awesome. After that, the freshman class gets a little shaky. A guy like Michael Brown Jr. going to Louisville, 6'4" point guard, has had an incredible last year, last 6 months. He'd be number 4 for me right now. And then after that, it's a lot of question marks with guys like Nicholas Kamenia and Chris Sinak and Nate Ament, where their flashes and the upside are really tantalizing, but how consistent are they and how ready are they? So I think the freshman class kind of falls off a little sooner than we may hope it does. Obviously, hopefully that's not the case, and they all turn out to be incredible players. But this draft kind of reminds me of the Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey class, where there are those couple clear-cut one-and-done freshmen at the very top of the draft. And then after that, I think there are going to be a lot of returners who really jump up into the top 5, top 10, and guys who might be a little more ready-made, who are a little more ready to contribute, may not have quite as exciting of an upside, but are a little more of a sure thing.
I love that information, because when you look at the Thunder's, pick selection in the 26th draft, I mean, they have Philadelphia, the Clippers, and Houston. Clippers and Houston just feel like absolute playoff locks. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia has a complete wide range where their pick is top 4 protected. You could see things going off the rails and them handing the Thunder the 8th pick, and they would miss your cutoff even then. And in all likelihood, they figure out somewhere in that play-in range if they just get some median health luck from them for their sake. So of these 3 picks that are realistically theirs, because they technically have Utah's, but it's top 8 protected, there's no way Utah is going to be 9 or below. Come on now. So it's like, of those 3 picks, like, they all fall out of that range where you feel comfortable, even right now in this season of hope. I mean, like where no one has busted out of college yet. No one has gone through a college season that's been disappointing. You kind of are full of hope, and it still isn't quite at that range to where if you look at the Thunder and they have all these picks and not a ton of roster spots, even though some will open up as the summer progresses next year, perhaps this would be a year where like the trade deadline becomes more serious for Oklahoma City, because you do have the value of a first round pick that you can give someone to help fix your shooting woes. If shooting is still an area that you want to try to bolster before the playoffs, which I think it will be by the time the deadline gets here. So that is incredibly valuable information. They're already covering the 26th draft in full over there at Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings as well on YouTube, and all of the work that you guys do is great. But I have to ask you before we get out of here about my guy, Brooks Barnheiser. I love Brooks Barnheiser. I mean, he is the definition of like Thunder DNA, the scrappy little defender who I think has a chance to make it and a chance to be the next wave of these Thunder players that you look on, like Wiggins and Dort and AJ, of like there were 2-way guys and now they're standard rostered contract players with true rotational value. What does it look like for Brooks Barnheiser to be the next in line of that crew to go from 2-way to a standard contract?
And I love how he plays. Just always one of the toughest guys out there. Throw in every cliche that you can think of. It fits with him. Really smart player, works his butt off, incredibly physical, really fun defender. But that shot might just be busted. It's really gross. I wish it wasn't. It's got a long way to go. He has a lot of work to put into it. He's really going to test Chip England and his ability to improve guys as shooters, because God, it needs it. But if he's one of these guys where it's like, all right, can you get to league average? Can you have that Lou Dort renaissance early in your career and just have that confidence, have that mentality and that willingness to let it fly, and then trust in the process, trust that the results will come? I think there's going to be a spot for him, but he's got to get to at least league average. Because right now that the shot is unfortunately really, really, really rough.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing that we're talking about with Topic in a different light of just getting to that league average of 3-point shooting, then opens up what he's actually good at, which like as a prospect, he was actually good at getting to the mid-range and shooting in that area, primarily like he was on the ball more, of course, in college than he will be for the Thunder. And the only pathway to doing that as an off-ball player with this Thunder team that has guys like Shea and J-Dub and Wiggins even taking up a large chunk of mid-range shots is by doing it off the catch. And to do it off the catch, you need someone to at least respect you and come out and contest that 3. So you saw it in Summer League whenever he was able to get to the mid-range, it all happened off the ball, and he was able to get to the elbow, rise up, even get fouled a couple of times and take that shot. But if guys are playing, 10 feet off of you, you're not going to be able to do that. Like you're not going to be able to figure out that shot, which is your bread and butter. I think that even as a cutter, things can't open up for him if someone's waiting in the paint for you because you're not a threat to shoot the basketball. So yeah, Chip England has his work cut out for him. Luckily, Chip England spends a lot of time with the OKC Blue. So I think that Brooks Barnheiser will get his feet wet down there before we actually see him making an impact at the Thunder level. But that's the thing with second round picks to me, Tyler. I mean, You draft a guy who has a tangible NBA skill, and defensively, he's got an NBA skill. And he's got a high level one, and now it's on your staff to figure out how to get the rest of it up to par.
Absolutely, and he's just fun, and the way that he gets downhill, gets to the rim, makes those secondary reads, and just does all the little crap that your stars don't want to do. None of those guys want to do the stuff that he's out there doing, and he's like, he wants to be doing that stuff. That's what he lives for. That's what he's absolutely dreams about. So just it's almost like Terrence Mann-esque when he came on with the Clippers, and if he can get to that ability of just knock down corner threes reliably, like start there, and then you can implement little things here and there because the IQ's there, the work ethic is there, the motor on the court during the game is there. So if he can just become kind of idealize what Lou Dort did, what Terrence Mann did, what PJ Tucker did, and try to follow that type of route, I definitely think there's a very real chance that he turns into a rotation guy down the road.
The OKC Blue with Brooksy Barnheiser and Brandon Carlson, they're going to be must watch. But Tyler, even like you guys are everywhere.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We're excited to take over the Lockdown NBA draft feed with No Ceilings this year. Go check that out. We're doing 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, until September. Then we're going every day. We're joining the club of going every day, getting used to the new format, all that kind of stuff. No Ceilings pod feed is still alive and well, and same stuff over there. I promise we're not just regurgitating the same information, different content, different voices, different pairings, perspectives, all that kind of stuff. NoCeilingsNBA.com, written stuff. Maxwell's doing an awesome No Stone Unturned series yet again. I'm starting to highlight some of the rookie guys, and then No Ceilings on YouTube. So we're trying to cover it all.
Tyler, thanks for joining us. Make sure you go check out Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.